Well, Happy New Year. Thank you guys for joining us today as we get to have a few moments to be able to share together online at our first service in 2021. I just want to remind you guys to make this moment sacred. Take a moment, and if you have a bigger screen, put it on the TV, maybe put it on your laptop, and then on your phone be able to interact with some other people. So right now you can just go ahead and say, hey, my name is, here's where I'm from, and we get a chance to be able to spend this moment, even though we may not be together, we have a chance to be able to be together online and experience the presence of God as we have worship today. And this past season, there's been a lot that we've been able to do because of your generosity. You've been so faithful in giving to God, giving to His plan, and allowing us to be able to use that to reach other people. So I just want to say thank you for being faithful. This past season has not been an easy season to be giving of our finances. But when we give to God, we know that He's going to multiply it, that He's going to reach people, and there's things that we can't do individually that we can do collectively because of honoring God through our giving. So right now, as we get ready for the service today, let's take a moment, watch this video, and prepare our hearts for worship.
So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I'll lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. When all I see is the battle, you see my victory. When all I see is a mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadow, your love surrounds me. Nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I'll lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And if you are for me, who can be against me? there's nothing impossible with you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty. When all I see is the cross, God, you see an empty tomb. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, my hands lifted high. Oh God, battle belongs to you. And every fear I'll lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you.
Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God.
An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You in the shadows, you win every battle. And nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And every fear I'll lay at your feet. And I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you.
Well, hey everyone, my name is John. I'm the campus pastor here at our downtown location. And let me be the first to tell you from Vortex, Happy New Year. It's been a crazy 2020, but we're getting ready to step into 2021. That's crazy that we're already here. But one thing that I would just want to remind you guys that through 2020, we have a pastor who has guided us and led us well in this season. I'm thankful for Pastor Kevin. I'm thankful for the leadership. I'm thankful for his friendship. And you guys may not see it, but behind the scenes, this season has been tough on him. But through it, he has persevered. Through it, he has trusted God, and he has leaned into God to guide us through this season. I'm so thankful that we have a pastor who doesn't try to do this on his own, that he tries to do it through God's strength and leans on those friendships around him. So thank you, Pastor Kevin. I love you. We love you. And thank you for the chance that I had to be able to be here, to stand on stage today and be able to share a message that I feel that God has put on my heart. And in 2020, we do a theme every year. In 2020, the theme that Pastor Kevin shared with us was relentless. We didn't know what that relentless was going to mean in that moment, but I truly believe that God prepared us in January for what 2020 was going to be like. And the theme of relentless, we've needed to lean into that because there's so many times that we could have just laid down and just stepped away. But we've been relentless through 2020. So today I want to just ask a question, and that's going to be what the theme of this message is going to be, is just what has 2020 taught us? There's a lot of things that have happened in 2020, and that's the point number one, is that anything can happen. 2020 has shown us that anything can happen. Beginning of the year, we thought about 2020 vision. I mean, we talked about it. Churches probably all over the world talked about 2020 vision. This was going to be the year of clarity. It was going to be a simple year. It was going to be a year that God showed us where we needed to go. Well, March hit, and we had a pandemic, something that none of us in our lifetime have gone through, and trying to figure out how to navigate that pandemic. That pandemic then caused schools to close, and that was tough on the kids, tough on the parents, tough on the teachers. And another thing that we saw in 2020, And some of you may still be suffering through this right now, and that was job closings and business closings. You guys poured everything into a business, worked hard to get that next promotion, and then all of a sudden it just swept out from under you. And you lost hours, you lost wages, may have even had to close the door on your business during this season. And one of the things that impacted me a lot was we went overnight from church in person to church online. And that was a challenge. And you guys were there faithfully with us every week online as we tried to figure out how to do church online and how to navigate that, how to do videos, how to be ready to serve you guys on Sunday morning. So that was a challenge that I was right in the middle of, was going to church online. And then as we rolled into the summer, we saw a lot of racial injustice. We saw riots, and we saw a lot of people losing their lives, and we saw a lot of rallies and campaigns. And that season was a tough season to navigate, a lot tougher than maybe what we have experienced personally. And then as we went into the fall, we launched our new campus. We had planned to launch a campus in 2020, didn't plan on it looking the way it did. But we had a chance to be able to launch a new campus, and God blessed us with that, to be able to meet back in person in the middle of this pandemic. And then as we rolled into November, you guys may have remembered, it's been so far ago, but maybe there was an election that had a little bit of tension that went with that. And we're still seeing some of that today. And then as we went into the holidays, and even at Christmas, something that I haven't had to do in probably over 20 years, and we've got a curfew. And that's a little bit different right now than what we've been used to, and trying to figure out how to eat out and all of that went with it. So 2020 brought a lot of things that we weren't expecting, because we went into this season and we had a plan. But let me remind you today that we may have a plan, but our plan doesn't always match God's plan. We may think that we've got it all figured out. We may think that we've got this great plan that is going to guide us through this next year. But it's not always going to be exactly what God's plan is. And I'm so glad that there's times that my plans don't match God's. Because sometimes my plans are selfish. Sometimes my plans are not in the best interest of what God has designed for me. And there's times that I just dream way too small. I don't think that I can actually accomplish a dream that God's given me. So I'm glad that there's times that God's dream is so much bigger than my dream. And in 2020, as we went through that list of all this stuff that happened, and we think that it may have been out of chaos, but there was so much order in what 2020 brought, because God's timing is perfect. God's timing is so perfect. And until we get on the other side and look back at it, as we're in 2021 looking back at 2020, we can see some of those steps that God had in place to prepare us for what he was leading us through in 2020. And as we look at our plan, and as we try to come up with a plan, and you may be coming up with a plan for 2021, let me remind you that the first thing you need to do is you need to pray. You need to pray and seek God first as you prepare for what you're going to do this year, whether it's for you individually, maybe for your family, maybe for your job or your business. But pray and seek God first. And then when he lays that plan on your heart, you need to trust him through that process. Because there's going to be times that process is going to be challenging. And if God showed us the end game, there may be some times that we don't want to step out into what that plan is because of the process that we're going to have to go through. But as we go through that process, as we go through what God has called us to do, there's going to be times that we're going to fail in the middle of that. And I know I failed many times throughout 2020 trying to accomplish those goals and trying to do what God called me to do, because some of those times I was trying to do some things out of selfish intent. I wasn't really following what God had called me to do. And through those failures, God has shown me my weaknesses, areas that I thought I was strong in. God showed me that, said, hey, you know what? You may feel that you're strong in this area, but let me just remind you that there's some areas that you're weak in that. And I want to point us to an area in Paul's life back when he wrote a letter to the church of Corinth. And Paul went through some things that were way worse than we could ever imagine, way worse than that list I just shared with you for 2020. And in the middle of his suffering, he always gave God the glory. And in 2 Corinthians 12:9, he's talking to the church in Corinth, and he says, "But he said to me," referring to Jesus speaking to him, he said that my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest in me. He says to boast all the more gladly in his weaknesses. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like to boast where I'm weak. I like to boast where I'm strong. But Paul said that he boasts in his weaknesses. And in what I've learned in 2020 are some of my weaknesses, and that some areas that I thought I was strong in that I was actually weak. And one of those was being able to just maintain just a lot at one time. And anybody that knows me know that I just keep going. I work and I work and I work. And it took this season to remind me that I needed to step away and take a season of rest in the middle of that. Because if I don't have the strength to be able to do what God called me to do, I'm not going to be able to do it the right way. And that's where in 2020, in my weaknesses, I had to learn to trust God in the areas that I'm weak. Where I'm weak doesn't mean that I can't pursue that and continue to push through it, but it means that I need to trust God in those areas. Because not only do I learn and grow from it, but I succeed in those moments of weaknesses. And when I do, it allows me to point people to Jesus, and it allows God to get that glory. Because if everything that I can do in my own power, then it's not big enough. It doesn't give me the chance to be able to point people to Jesus, and people that know me and know what my weaknesses are. And when I'm able to succeed in that, they know that it's not on my strength. They know that it's not on the abilities that I have learned. That gives me an opportunity to point people to Jesus. And the first point that we saw in what 2020 has shown us is that anything can happen. And the second thing is that we are stronger together. That we are stronger together. And this season has really shown me that community and that friendships and that family is so important, because we could not make it through this season on our own. In a season full of isolation and distancing, we're reminded that we were not designed to live this life alone. God created us for relationships. That's why we are here, is to have a relationship with Him and to have a relationship with other people. And I want to show us in Galatians 6 just a scripture where God points us in that direction. It says to carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. That we need to carry each other's burdens. I don't know about you guys, but there's been many times in 2020 that I could not continue on with the burden that I had on my own without people around me to help me. Family is so important. It's so important. Through this season, my parents and my in-laws and my wife and my kids gave me the strength to be able to get through this season. I don't know how many times that I would make a phone call to my parents in Pennsylvania or to my in-laws down in Seven Lakes, or just sit down with my family and just pour out to them that I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know what to do. Having a family around you that you can have comfort in and you can have that conversation with is so important. And that was so valuable to me this year. And we can even see that way back in Genesis that God showed that family is important. Because when He created Adam, He looked down and He said that it is not good for man to be alone. God showed us right there at the very beginning of Scriptures that we need to have family, and we need to be able to lean into those relationships with our family. And this year, another area that has helped support me through this season is my friends. I don't know about you guys, but you need to have some friendships that are close, some people you can have some tough conversations with and sit down and allow them to pour into you in some areas that you need, and maybe just sometimes some people that you can vent to and just be able to say, hey, you know what, I'm struggling through this. I don't know what to do, and just have a conversation with your friends. And Pastor Kevin is one of my friends that has helped me through this season, and I've got some others, some men in my life that I can lean into when times get tough, and I'm so thankful that I have those friendships. And Jesus knew it as he was going through his life. Jesus had his 12 disciples by his side at all times. He knew the value of friendships and the value of having some people close to you when times got tough. All the way through his life, he had some close friendships that he was able to talk to and to lean on and to pray with and to get him through some tough situations. And then some others that have helped me through this season have been my coworkers. My coworkers here at church, and I've got a part-time job, and some great coworkers that I've got there, being able to just pick me up and lift me up and help me through this season. And it's so important, no matter where you're at. If you're watching online and you're here in Stanley County, or you may be anywhere around the U.S. or around the world right now, God has you where you're at for a reason. He has you there to build community and to build relationships with the people that are around you. It's not by any kind of fault, but it's by design that God has you exactly where you're at to build community with those around you. And we see that in Hebrews 10:24 and 25. And it says, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together. Not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Not giving up meeting together. This past season has been tough meeting together. In person has been a challenge. There's been a lot of health-related issues and just a lot of distractions. But let me remind you guys of something that Pastor Kevin shared a few weeks ago. There's a statistic that came out this year, and it was done by a non-faith-based organization. And it went through whether you were a male or female. It didn't matter what race or gender or Republican or Democrat or economic status. Every single category was negative in mental health from 2019 to 2020, except for one category. And that was those who regularly attended church. And it is so important to be in church and regularly meet together because of what the community does in that moment. So friends and family and coworkers, it's valuable, it's important. God designed us to have those relationships. But Jesus is the most important relationship that we need to have. We need the rest of them, but we need Jesus, because the most important relationship we should have is with Jesus. He makes us better, and he makes our relationships better. We can't have good relationships if we don't have a strong relationship with Jesus. It's so important to continue to build that relationship with Jesus and continue to spend time with him, because it's going to make all the rest of our relationships that we have so much better. And there's three things I want to show you real quick today, and I said we're not designed to be alone. We're not designed to be alone. We need each other, and we need Jesus. That is so important to have those relationships in our lives. But it's so much more important to have that relationship with Jesus, because with Jesus by your side, everything is better. Everything is so much better with Jesus by your side. And to be honest, I don't know about you guys, but coming through 2020, without having Jesus by my side, I don't know how I'd have done it. I don't know how I would have got through all the changes, all the scary moments, all the uncertainties. I don't know how I would have gotten through 2020 without having Jesus by my side. But I want to just let you know that when Jesus is by your side, that doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have any troubles. You're not going to have any heartaches. You're not going to have any pain. That's still part of life. That's still part of the sin that is in us. We're still going to experience some tough times in life, not just in 2020, but throughout our entire life. But with Jesus by your side, it's going to make it better. Because he is going to walk with us, and that's a promise that he's given us. That when we walk with him, that he's going to be there when we go through tough times. He's going to walk by our side. But he also wants to be there to celebrate the good times. When we pray so often, I know I do, I'm always asking God for something. But I need to be reminded to thank him for those moments that he answered those prayers, that he helped me with that new job. He helped me when I was sick or a family member was sick or whatever I was going through. I needed to be reminded that God was there with me, not just to walk with me through the troubles, but he was there to celebrate in those moments of victory. And as I walk through some of my darkest moments, they've been tough. Throughout my entire life, there's been some moments that have been really tough, but I've had Jesus there by my side, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without my relationship with Jesus, but I also wouldn't have been able to do it without my friends and my family. It's so important to have those people that are close to you. But as I went through it, it just wasn't enough to be able to go through those, but because I leaned into God in those moments, I came out so much stronger. The advice that I got from those that were close to me, and the hope and the strength that Jesus gave me as I walked through my weaknesses. I didn't just make it through, but I came out stronger. And we see that in 2021, that it's taught us that anything can happen. It's taught us that we are stronger together. And the third point today is that Jesus is still in control. 2020 has shown us that Jesus is still in control. In the middle of all this chaos, he is still in control. And this season, you may have felt like you were out of control, that this pandemic was out of control, that everything else going on around us was out of control. But God was there the entire time. God was there with us. God was in the middle of it. God knew the outcome. And at the beginning where I said that sometimes if we know what that process is going to be to get there, we may not be willing to do it. But God shows us to take one step at a time, trust him in faith, and he'll lead us to where he has promised us to be. And that's a promise that you can walk into every single day when you trust in God, that he is going to help you through that. And I don't know about you guys, but 2020 has felt like 10 years and 10 minutes all at the same time. I mean, we're in 2021, and it felt like March 17th, 2020 just happened. But it also felt like it's been an entire decade. And it has been absolutely crazy through this season. But this isn't the first time that we've gone through something like this. Maybe for us personally, in our lifetime, this is the first time. But if we look back, there's been times of chaos and times of just wondering how in the world we would make it through a season. We look back into the Old Testament with Moses and the Israelites as God sent the 10 plagues on the Egyptians. I mean, 2020 may not have been easy, but I would not have wanted to have been there during those 10 plagues that the Egyptians had to go through. And even just a little over 100 years ago, the Spanish flu and the number of people that wiped out. And then even right now in this season with COVID-19 and the coronavirus and everything this has brought, we're not the only ones who have gone through a season that has been tough. And Lord willing, if we continue on, it may be our kids, it may be our grandkids, a future generation may go through something else that may be way worse than what we've experienced in this year. But let me tell you, there's no experience that was tougher than Jesus' death on the cross. What we've experienced is nothing compared to what that moment meant. You think about Jesus' family, Mary and Joseph, as they were there and watched what had happened, and his 12 disciples and his community as he was beaten. He was crucified for our sins. That moment, I can't imagine what his Father in heaven was looking down and seeing his Son give up his life for you and for me. So the seasons that we may think are tough, they're nothing compared to what Jesus went through. And he went through that to make all things possible for us to go through. Jesus laid down his life to allow us to go through these things because with God, all things are possible. Anything we go through in this life, it is possible if we allow Jesus to be at the center of our lives. And there's a lot of dark moments that we walk through, maybe collectively like we just did in this season, or maybe individually. You may be fighting a depression right now. You may be fighting an addiction. You may be struggling with the potential of a divorce. There's a lot of dark moments that we walk through in life. But let me point you to a scripture in Psalm 23:4. It says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. When we have Jesus at the center of our life, it doesn't matter what you're going to go through. He is going to be there to comfort you. And no matter what 2020 is thrown at us, or whatever 2021 is going to bring, when Jesus wins, we all win. When Jesus wins, we all win. And 2020 hasn't been an easy season. Like I said at the beginning, many of us may have lost jobs, may have lost wages. When they shut down the schools, we all became homeschool parents. I don't know about some of you guys, that's not an easy thing. Trying to figure out this new math and trying to help our kids while we're still working and they're at home, and there's going to be times that's going to be a lot of tension, there's going to be a lot of stress. You may be going through right now some damaged relationships, whether it's some friendships, maybe it's your marriage, maybe it's with your kids or your parents. And maybe through this season, you may have experienced the death of a loved one. You're not alone in that. There are other people that have experienced that. But Jesus is there with you to help guide you through that. And Pastor Kevin, just a few weeks ago, he shared something that when he said it, I mean, it was like God was speaking directly to me. Because if you know anything about me, you know I'm maybe a little bit competitive. I like to win. But Pastor Kevin said that there's some times that God doesn't bring us through a situation to win. He may be helping us fight through that battle so that we can learn. We may not be in that to win that. So I just want that to sink in for a moment. And I want to ask you right now, what is God trying to help you learn through this season? What is God trying to help you learn? Not win, but what is he trying to teach you to make you stronger when you come through this than what you were before that? So as 2020 came to a close, 2021's beginning, we need to be reminded that God's still in control. He was before, he was right in the middle, and he's still in control right now. Because there's no guarantee that 2021 is going to be any better. 2021 may be worse. We don't know. But we do know that God's in control. And as long as we can be reminded and remember that Jesus needs to be the center of our life, we can make it through 2021 just like we did in 2020, strictly through the grace of God. And as we've gone through 2020, every week, and it's been so helpful for me, and hopefully it has been for you, Pastor Kevin has told us that God's got this and God's got you. And that doesn't stop. It didn't change when we hit 2021. That's a reminder that we need every day of our lives, is that to be reminded that God's got this and that God's got you. So don't be afraid to step into 2021. Step into it with boldness, trusting that God is going to do amazing things. Dream big, plan big, pray, ask God, and then trust him through the promise of what he has given you. And as we've been reminded in this last series through the thrill of hope, just the common theme through that has been that hope is an attitude of expectation, a faith-filled optimism fueled by profound trust in God over the future of our lives. And it's just being able to look forward with hope that God has this in control. And that's exactly what we're going to start next week as we begin our vision series for 2021. Pastor Kevin's going to be preaching on better, on how to be better. That's going to be our theme for 2021 is better. And if you want better relationships, if you want better friendships, if you want to be a better parent or spouse, if you want to be better at your job, the only way for these to happen is to be better at your relationship with God. And when we have a better relationship with Jesus, the rest of our relationships are going to get better. We need to be better at our relationship with Jesus. Can we take a moment and pray together? Lord, I just want to thank you for what you have taught us in 2020. It wasn't easy. There was times that we wanted to give up. There was times that we just wanted to just lay down and say, I'm done. But constantly through that, we have been reminded that you are in control. That no matter what happens, you're faithful. Your promises are true. And you're going to help us get through these if we continue to lean into you, put you at the center, and allow you to guide us through our lives. So if you guys would just look at me for a minute. I just want to just ask you, if 2020, did it leave you frustrated? Did it leave you angry? Maybe sad? A little confused? Did it leave you questioning God? Questioning whether he's good, questioning whether you are at the center of what his best interest is. That may be you today, but you're not alone in that. There are many of us that have felt that through this season, but we need to be reminded that Jesus is still in control. We need to allow God to prepare our hearts for what 2021 is going to bring. So if that's you today, if you're at our online campus, there's going to be a button there that says, I raise my hand, that I've been struggling through something this year, that I need to be able to give that to God as I step into 2021 and say, you know what, I don't understand it. I don't know what this means, but I trust God, and I trust him to guide me through the next step, trust him through that process, that he's going to be faithful through that. And maybe today you just feel the Holy Spirit tugging at your heart. And maybe for the first time today, or maybe you're rededicating your life, allow this moment to be sacred for you. Allow this moment to be special. And if that's you, whether you're on our online campus or whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook right now, I encourage you to text in I choose to 97000. Text I choose to 97000. And that gives us a chance to be able to pray with you, pray for you as you take this next step. We're not going to publish any of that information, but that's for us to be able, as your pastors, to be able to pray over you as you step out in faith, as you trust God to guide you through the next process. Well, thanks for joining us today for Church Online. in 2021. So if you were in church today, you are on track for perfect attendance in 2021. And I just want to just let you guys know that each year as we start, we go into 21 days of prayer and fasting, and that begins today. And we just want to take these next 21 days, prepare our hearts for what God has in store for us. As I just mentioned a little bit ago, that in order to know what God's plan is, that we need to seek Him first, and we need to pray and allow Him to guide us to what He has for us as we step into 2021. And then next Sunday, Pastor Kevin will be back. He's going to be starting our vision series called Better. And next week, it's entitled How to Have a Better Year. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to hear that message. I want to find out what God has laid on His heart to help us have a better year in 2021. So as we leave today, I just want to remind you of a few things, that God's got this and God's got you. That has helped sustain us through 2020, and it's going to continue to help us every day of our lives to be reminded that God is there for us. We're there with you. We love you guys. We hope you have a great week.